Swisher joins us this morning. Kara, there you go again, beating around the bush, not getting to the point. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
What'd
you expect, Carl?
Why is this just, in your view, is this bald-faced deflection, or are there any legitimacy to their claims here?
You know what? Of course. I mean, obviously, advertising is how Facebook works, and lots of small businesses are, we did a really good segment on Pivot this week about this. You have to advertise on Facebook if you're a small business. You don't have other choices. Hence, we should talk about antitrust, but that's another issue. I mean, I would like it if Facebook just said, look, our advertising business depends on this. Like, just be honest about it instead of trying to pretend they're the savior of small businesses. It's just typical of Facebook to do this instead of honestly saying, hey, this is our business. We think that Apple has too much power over this, and pointing out that they have too much power over the advertising industry. I mean, none of it looks good for any of them, as I pointed out in the column. But in general, this idea of being a savior of small business is exhausting to watch, I have to say.
Yeah, you do say, let's be clear, Apple is no saint, which makes me wonder how you think this gets remedied or ironed out, if it does at all.
Well, with states' attorney generals and others really focusing in on advertising and search, in the case of Google's had several lawsuits this past week from states' attorney generals. This focus on advertising is going to grow stronger and stronger because that's where the money is, right? And so I think their issues around Apple will probably be solved by a bunch of regulatory issues or rulemaking or things like that. And you've already seen them move, but they need to move more, obviously, on the power over the App Store. But I just feel like advertising is sort of that people don't have choice in advertising. And I think if you're online, you have a choice between Google and Apple, essentially. Google and Apple, Google and Facebook. It's a difficult situation. I think Facebook's only calling attention to that issue, which I think will be part of these FTC investigations and everything else. And so, as I said in the piece, it only calls attention to the fact that there's too much power in the hands of these tech companies and showing that these giants are sort of fighting. And the fact of the matter is they control everything between them, which is problematic.
Kara, I'd love to see you write a column about what to me are the two big red herrings in tech right now. Small business and China, right? Small business, it's the hardworking Americans. Everybody loves small business. You can't argue against. Right. And then China, exactly. Like if you don't let us do what we want, then China's going to come in and take over everything, right? Right.
And in both cases, by the way, small businesses are struggling, and they can only choose things like Facebook, and China is a threat. It's just that they use these as shields to the fact that they're so powerful, these companies. And so I think, obviously Apple's much more exposed in China in terms of manufacture and market and things like that. But it is. It's that they're using every excuse I'd like them to just tell the truth of what's going on. I think it's kind of like we're big companies. They have a control over the mobile system along with Google, and we have control of the advertising system along with Google. And just let's be honest about that. There's very little choice for small business, and there's very little choice for app developers.
Well, like you say, those are both real issues, but to isolate them and sort of make it like they're the end-all and be-all. It's like an emotional appeal that's a way to get away from setting really smart, concrete rules about how to deal with whether it's competition or it's data security.
Privacy. And the other issue around privacy is, why can't we opt in? Of course, it ruins their business if people have to opt in or if there's a question mark or stuff like that. I do appreciate those warnings from Apple. And there are a lot of people who don't like all the relentless sucking sound of Facebook data or anybody's data. And so I don't know. I want them to explain what's wrong with opt-in and what's wrong with giving the consumer a choice about that. And I'd like them to have a good debate about it. I'd just like them not to pretend they're on the side of people that's not really their motivation here. It's about their stock and it's about their strength, and they have a lot of dominance over these small businesses. You want to talk about that? I think that's a good debate too.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.